I'm very much one of those types of people that doesn't automatically take the side of organizations of ownership when it comes to contract negotiations. Because I think it's incredibly hypocritical and also very unrealistic for us to sit there as fans, as outsiders, and look at athletes and say, hey, because I like you and or you play for my team, I think you should take less money than you can possibly get because I say so. Even though I'll sit there and change jobs at the drop of a hat for an extra 5, 10, 15% myself. But I don't apply those same rules to you. What, because you're an athlete? That's freaking ridiculous. The principles are the same here. Athletes should be able to get whatever is best for them. Athletes should be able to get as much for themselves as they possibly can. That is absolutely not an issue to me at all. Get every dollar you can, especially in the NFL, when you're talking about guys with limited shelf lives, one big injury away from it being all over. I am all for a guy getting every bit that he possibly can as long as he has the leverage and the earning power to do so. No issue here. So when I see guys hold out, like Khalil Mack, like Aaron Donald, it's fine with me. Get it while you can, especially when you're that talented and you have that type of leverage. Because either A, you would think usually, your team will eventually cave like the Rams did with Aaron Donald, or B, if you're Khalil Mack, your team will cave and they will trade you to a team like my Chicago Bears, and they will pay you because you are worth it. Nice work if you can get it. Nice leverage if you have it. So I can understand Le'Veon Bell when you see things like what happened with Earl Thomas and him trying to hold out with the Seahawks. They didn't give him a long-term contract. He goes out there, he breaks his leg. Who knows what's next for him in the grand scheme of things? Could have potentially lost out on a lot of money. I totally get it, and I totally understand it. Le'Veon Bell wanting to play hardball again this offseason, wanting to sit there and try and force the Steelers' hands, trying to get some type of long-term deal done, especially when you're talking about the running back position and the short shelf life that those guys have. Again, get every dollar that you're worth. No issue with that whatsoever. But there also comes a point in time where you overplay your hand and you make a major gross miscalculation. And that's exactly what, to me, Le'Veon Bell has done here. He dug his heels in so far, stuck his head in the sand so much, that he basically forced himself to take it up the keister. He boxed himself in, and now, as we all know, Le'Veon Bell will indeed sit out the entirety of the 2018 NFL season. And for a guy who in the first 5 years of his career made approximately about $14.5 million, he left $14.5 million on the table by not signing that franchise tag and playing under it this year, which we all knew was going to be his last year in Pittsburgh. Must be nice to be in a position, huh? To turn away $14.5 million guaranteed once you sign on the dotted line. Man, that's risky. That's really, really risky. And there's something when you talk about entrepreneurial spirit and guys believing in themselves and having confidence in themselves and taking calculated gambles and risks and chances on themselves, that can be appealing, that you can respect, that you can admire. But then there is also a point in time where you overplay your hand, you misunderstand your situation, and in the process, you eliminate what little leverage you actually had. And to me, that's exactly what Le'Veon Bell did. Le'Veon Bell's whole hope here is that by sitting out the entirety of the 2018 season, he's going to be fresh as a daisy. You're going to have teams perhaps like the Jets, the Colts, a couple of others that might be ready to back up the Brinks truck and give him a shit ton of money over a long period of time because Le'Veon knows for all intents and purposes this is his one last shot to get a massive deal. And he wants to get it. And there's a fear that the Steelers, knowing it was going to be his last year there and they're paying him $14.5 million, would have run the wheels off of him and ground him into the ground, making other teams hesitant to give him a long-term deal. I get that. Because, quite frankly, that could have potentially happened. But in the process here, Le'Veon Bell has thrown away $14.5 million that he may never will get back. Now, some will sit there and point to the fact of, well, he could have signed that and then all of a sudden tore up his knee, broken his leg severely, and never been the same and never gotten another big contract. And that $14.5 million would have been the last $14.5 million he would ever get. And that is absolutely true, and that is absolutely correct. In the meantime, though, you have to look at the flip side of that. You could sit there and not sign that franchise tender, which is ultimately what Le'Veon did, choose to sit out the entirety of the season like Le'Veon Bell did, and be sitting there playing basketball or jet skiing or just running in a freaking training session and tear a knee ligament or tear your Achilles. Ask Dez Bryant. He was gone for a while. Finally signed with the Saints. Second practice, pop goes the Achilles. Season done. Who knows if he'll even have a career anymore at this point? You just never know, and that's true, but that goes in a variety of different ways. And to sit there and say that you want to give up $14.5 million guaranteed, okay, let's say you get David Johnson money or you get Todd Gurley money. All you did was delay your payment for a year. You're not getting yourself additional monies here necessarily. And if anything, you're looking at $14.5 million you truly never get back, on top of pension and 401k and health reimbursement accounts, all of these things that are contributed into that are probably another $100,000, $200,000 a year or so for a guy like Le'Veon. That doesn't make much sense to walk away from that. And again, to me, this is an example of a guy getting really bad advice and him and his advising team being incredibly stubborn to the point of being foolish and overplaying their hand significantly. Because if anything, Le'Veon Bell's market in free agency doesn't increase or go up because of the fact that he took an entire season off. It very possibly goes down. Because when you look at it, this is not like this is a Le'Veon Bell that has a perfect health history. He doesn't. It's not like this is a Le'Veon Bell that has a perfectly clean off-the-field history. He doesn't. It's not like Le'Veon Bell went through a whole season, didn't play, and got another year younger. He got another year older. Still with a bunch of wear and tear and mileage on his damn body. And then when you look at his 2017, and you look at James Conner and his 2018, the argument most certainly could be made statistically that James Conner this year has been better than Le'Veon Bell last year. So now Le'Veon Bell goes into a market where he hasn't played for a year, and his backup in Pittsburgh played better than him. Who the hell thinks this is good negotiating tactics? Who the hell thinks that this is a way to exercise great leverage? Le'Veon, you don't have any. And you just turned down $14.5 million for the fuck all of it. I'm about athletes getting paid. You have to sign on the dotted line to get paid. And yes, there's absolutely the risk you injure yourself and then Bob's your uncle. It's all fucking over. But you could potentially hit the marketplace, and knowing how fickle people in the NFL could be, they could collude against you, and you might not get signed at all. Because they might say Le'Veon Bell's just not worth it. And you know what? They might be right. Or they might say we're going to give him like 1 year, $7 million. Then guess what? You're entering into another year where you're potentially having to look at playing for a future contract. And in the process, you turned away $14.5 million to get less money in 2019. This makes no goddamn sense. To me, it's a gross miscalculation. When in doubt, we look at this from a business perspective. Yes, the business world, you got to sometimes take risks and you got to take chances. But sometimes good business is about taking the sure thing and taking the here and the now and worry about the future as it comes. You look at Dez Bryant. There were reports that he turned down $7 million contract offers for a year. He turned down, didn't he turn down the Ravens and they offered him a couple of years and a few $1 million per season? He goes and ends up signing for the Saints for a pittance of the money by comparison and then pops his Achilles in the second practice. If Dez Bryant said to you that he didn't instantly regret his decision in the way he handled his offseason this year, I would call him a fucking liar to his face because you cost yourself a lot of money. Sometimes You have to swallow your pride and take what you can get now and let the future play out as it may, because the future is not promised to anybody. And as far as I'm concerned, Le'Veon Bell gave up $14.5 million without a really solid reason to do so, other than pride and ego and kind of this delusion that it was going to pay off and he would get more of that money back long term, when the truth is that's just not happening. He doesn't have the leverage he thinks he has. He threw away a shit ton of money, and in the process, his backup looks better than he does. Good luck selling teams on that, Le'Veon. You're another year older, and you will have missed an entire year of NFL action going into this upcoming offseason.